Came to put some diatomaceous earth on my zucchini plants, and notice the bees really going after the sweet corn. There's about a dozen bees just going crazy on my corn. So the way corn works is, this is the male part of the corn, and then it falls down onto the female, which is down here. So the pollen and everything will get knocked off from the bees on it and fall down into the corn ears down here, and then that's how they get pollinated, start growing. It has not rained for a long time. Everything's drying up. Our wells we're getting water from is dried up. We got water from the creek 2 days ago. We need to get this well room done so we can get our storage containers in here, and then we'll call the local co-op and have them deliver us, you know, probably put 1,000 gallons in each one of the tanks so we can have some water. The rain's north of us, it's south of us. This morning it rained to the north. Yesterday it rained to the south. It's not raining here. It's been the pattern for quite a while now. The rain we have got has been very, very minimal. You know, it may get the ground a little damp, and then 30 minutes later we're back to dust. So it just hasn't been enough to do anything. So the goal today is to build this room here on the back, at least get all 3 of the walls up. So the 2 walls on the side will have a garage door here in the middle, and then that will go clear up to the upper deck, which is where the master bedroom is. This large opening here is a sliding glass door. Will go out onto a deck area there, and then we move the bathroom out onto this section. The reason why I didn't want to extend the room beyond onto this slab is these are 2 different foundations and they might settle differently. This is a pretty thick slab. I mean, you can see the corner, that's a thickened edge, so that's just over a foot, around a foot, and then the center area is 6 inches. It's got rebar and mesh in there. I don't think it's going to go anywhere, especially since we're sitting on top of rock too. And the footings underneath this slab are also, are they 12 by 16 or 12 by 18, and then we have a 6-inch slab on top of that with wire. So we don't put mesh, we put rebar in it though. So I'm not overly concerned about it shifting, but there's still a difference. I also pinned the this slab to that footing, so I don't expect there to be any shifting. But if it would, and let's say this seam, let's say we push the room all the way out and now we have this seam inside the room and they settle or they shift differently, now in that room we're going to have a noticeable bump. So by putting the door on the seam and the door into the bathroom on the seam, if there is a bump, if they do shift and offset a little bit, you're really not going to notice it. So that's why I did it that way. So these walls are going to be a little bit taller, of course, because we dropped this slab down 1.5 inches, 2 inches, probably good 2 inches. And then where this wall is over will be level. This wall this way is actually going to be, it's going to slope 1.5 inches or 1 inch over 12 feet. It'll be a 112 or 1.5 12 pitch. So if any rain does get on there, it will shed off the side. And then I believe when I measured this out, I'm not 100% sure if those walls really line up quite right. When I poured this slab, I was not planning on taking this wall all the way up. So they might not. Eyeballing it, it kind of looks pretty close, but I just don't know. So if it doesn't line up perfectly, then I mean, it's pretty darn close, but I don't think it's going to be perfect. So anyways, my trusses may overhang just a hair or in a hair, which is fine. I'll take care of that when it comes to doing the soffit. Got 12 trusses over there in my end cap or my common, and I've got 10 more trusses coming over the master up here, because what we're going to do is put basically a soffit on this side, go up a foot over and then down onto this wall, so we can make that height in the bedroom 9 foot versus 8 foot. And then it'll be 8 foot in the bathroom and in the closet area. And then I'll use these rafters that, or excuse me, trusses that we're going to go over this end, use them over the this little addition we put out there. It's going to cost us about an extra $1,000 for those trusses. I could have hand framed them, but when I hand frame things, when it's just me, or maybe just me and Barry out here, it would take us a long time. And we're running out of time. Really need to get this thing closed in. It's just, things just take 3 times as long when you're doing it yourself. So anyways, I should end up with about 3 more trusses. I'm going to save those because I would like to build a little barn shed somewhere at some point, and I'm going to do probably just a pole barn layout, and so my trusses will be on 4-foot centers there instead of 16 like we're doing here. I didn't have to do 16. A lot of people are switching to 24 inches on center, but I knew this was going to be a big house. I knew this was going to be somewhere we're going to be living in for a very, very long time, hopefully, and I wanted to try and get that as beefed up and as strong as I possibly could. Plus we're putting the solar panels on top. There's some other considerations like the sheeting, for example. I can use the 7/16 sheeting that we're using on the walls for the roof. I'm on a 16-inch center. If I were to do a 2-foot on center, I would want to bump that up to a 5/8 sheetrock, which is a little more expensive. Now, of course, the offset cost may not be that much, but the fact that we're putting solar panels up there and a lot of panels, I just want it to be beefier. Hope I had enough water so I can do the gardens. I was hoping it would rain this morning so I wouldn't have to water them. Check on the chickens, and then get to work. Another day. Yeah, I'll show you what I'm doing real quick. Got the walls of the pump room up, header and everything. Space took the skid steer crane, put the header up, and then used it again to get that center wall up, make it a lot easier. Right now, I'm getting up the sheeting so I can put a board or basically another header along here, attack the outside to rest my trusses or floor joists on. So what I'm having to do is, I'm doing this by myself, is put these cleats on the outside. That gives me a little bit of a lip there, so I can slide my sheeting down behind it. That holds it in place just enough to where I can come back down from the upper floor. I'll slide a sheet in, then come back down and start nailing it in. So at the point now where on this one I can go ahead and take this one off and then nail behind it. So I've got 2 more sheets to do upright and then a small sheet, and then I can get to putting on my my little ledge so I can put my floor joists on. Well, screwed up yesterday, so before I left I worked on getting that support up there for my floor joist, and was trying to do a chalk line and measuring off the edge and using a line level. Then I got it tacked in the middle and put a couple nails in it and level it left and right. Well, it turns out I'm 3/8 of an inch short on this side, and I'm pretty sure I'm high on this side. So if we had planned this when we planned the house out, I would have had that sitting on a wall with them built in, but this was an afterthought, so I'm basically having to make do and add it on the outside. But I messed up. I should have just brought the scaffolding down where I can get up there and measure it. What I'm going to do too is when I get that off, I'm going to go ahead and cut the sheeting back, because right now that is nailed to the sheeting, and I'm going to remove that so that I'll be nailed directly to the studs, and then I'll screw directly into the studs as well. And then I can go get the floor joists and get those cut and start putting those up. Okay, the sun came out, it got hot around here. So when I laid this down, my This is my outer wall. I went ahead and cut this one eye joist to get my level right. This was higher, and I believe the slab was just a little crooked, so we ended up having to cut out. I cut that one down 5/16 with a 1/16 down on each of these, and now it's got it pretty straight. Before it would have had a big hump in the floor. But what I wanted to show you was this. So originally the floor joist was supposed to sit about right here. The problem with that, I noticed it right away, is that I have a toilet along this wall. So actually, let me pause it here and I'll move this beam. Okay, so if I were to measure off from here, so I would have gone 16 inches on center, and then it's a 3.5 inch eye joist, so it would have gone out to here and to here. So the problem with that is that my toilet from my outer wall, my framed wall, is 12.5 inches. So the toilets are 12 inches to a finished wall, 12.5 to a unfinished wall. And then if I used a 3-inch coupling like this, it's actually 4 inches wide. So I'll take another 2 inches off. You can see that if my 3.5, or if my floor joist 3.5 inches was centered right here, I would be hitting that, and I do not want to cut my floor joist. So I'm going to move my floor joist down. It's going to be on these two lines. It'll be a 1/4 inch off the edge of my toilet, and that will widen the distance between my 16 inches, but I'm not worried about that. These are very beefy, very wide, and it's not going to hurt me at all. But something you need to think about when you're framing is where your floor joists are. So one thing I do when I draw things out is I'll lay out where all of my floor joists are in the plan, and then overlay that over where the bathrooms are going to go, so I can make sure I'm not going to be hitting any of those plumbing. Other ones like the sink, you can typically move the sink. Washing machine, you really can't play with that a whole heck of a lot. And a toilet, you really can't play with. You can't move a 3.5 inch pipe just wherever you want it to be. It has to be centered on that stool. So things to consider is you have to make sure that your floor joists are going to be set and in place exactly where they're going to be, where you're not going to hit any major plumbing lines. Just want to share that real quick. But I'm going to be gluing these like I did everything else, and I've switched to the Great Stuff versus the Advantech. This has been sitting in the shed for, it says it will store it for a month without having to clean it out. I bet I'm over a month since I put the floors down, and all I did was just pop a little bit off the top, open the valve, and it sprayed right away. So again, I'm pretty impressed with how this stuff works. But I'll go ahead and put a little shot down everywhere my floor joist is going to go to glue those, and then when I do the flooring, of course, I'll glue those down too. So if you notice out here, halfway over, our bathroom will stop right here, and then it drops down, and then on my ledger over here, it's going to drop down, I believe, 1.5 inches, so I can build it back up. And then this wall actually slopes down. The reason why that is that that's going to be a deck, and it will be open, and I want everything to flow off the end. I don't know if you can see it or not, but this corner is actually a good 1/4 inch higher than everything else, and I believe the reason why that is that when we poured it, I believe that corner just happens to be a little bit higher, because I know they're all cut the same. You can definitely see that it dips down, and then right about here it shoots right back up. I'm not overly worried about that. If it creates a little dip there, you're really not going to notice it, and that means most of my water is going to run off right here, because everything's going to kind of flow in this direction right towards that low spot. So I'm not horribly worried about it. But anyways, I lowered this down. I believe it's 1 inch or 1.5 inches, because I've got to have room to put a rain screed in there. So I'll have my trusses, and then, not my trusses, sorry, I'll have my joists, and then my flooring, and then a rubber membrane, and then a rain screen, and then my final floor will sit on top of that, and the final floor will probably be normal outside decking. And then the reason for the rain screen is that if anything gets through that and soaks down into the part below, it'll have an air gap to evaporate, and it'll have a path out. So if it pools up, it will dribble out and come over the side. I have an 1.5 inch drop between the two sides, so it's a 1.5 to 12 pitch. And I'll leave this a little side open over here so water can dribble out if ever get any water down in there. Now, most of our storms come from that direction. In the winter time, sometimes they come from the north, which is behind me. So really, unless we have an oddball storm, only this outside corner may be the only thing really getting wet as the rain comes, over around this corner here from the south and from the west. Is typically where our storms come from. So I really don't expect the deck to be really getting that wet, but I want to go ahead and plan for it in advance. And also, because down here is just our pump room, it's going to be an unfinished space. I've just got to put plywood on the walls or OSB on the walls. Look at my tanks in here. If I do develop a drip, that's not that big of a deal because it's just going to be dripping into the pump room. If it were over the finished space and I had drywall and everything else in there, then I'd be more concerned about it. So that's the plan. I'm hoping to get some water delivered this weekend.